this, just so you're aware of that. We've had several people say they couldn't make it and they would love to have a recording, which we do try to provide most of the time anyway. So thank you, Rob, for helping me be on task. And let me get back. So just to kind of finish out what we're talking about with TCCY, we do a lot of things around data insights, provide information, monitor various indicators to help look at trends and concerns, and then also keep up with public best practices for addressing issues. This is one of the examples of collaboration. We love just bringing folks together to network and help understand what's going on across our state at all levels, at a state level, a regional level, a community level. Policy advocacy, we try to review that data, the outcomes of data, and make sure that we're sharing information that really provides the best evidence-based suggestions for improvement, and then just help share more about the importance of children's health, children's issues, and advocate for community engagement. So that's TCCY, in case you needed a reminder. Today, we're just so excited to have a focus on education and the work that's going on across our state in our education spaces. Colleen Mall will be with us. She is with the Cumberland County Trauma Informed Community Alliance. Our friends from the Department of School Culture over at Knox County Schools, our friends at ETSU from the Strong Brain Institute and their Educational Leadership and Policy Analysis departments, the Department of Education, and quite a few of our friends from Metro Nashville Public Schools. The first group will talk about their trauma-informed schools and advocacy center work, and then more about the early learning initiatives at MNPS and Grow Together. So just excited to have all our folks with us today. We won't do introductions, mainly just because there's a lot of us, like 78. How cool is that? 78 of us on the webinar, and that would get a little tedious, but in case I didn't say this once most folks have gotten on, if you wouldn't mind going ahead and putting your information into the chat so that folks can see who you are and where you work and maybe the space that you work in, that would be phenomenal. I do want to give props to a couple of things before we go. At TCCY, many of you are already aware, but just to make sure, we do have a couple of new staff, and I don't know if Teresa's with us or not, but Teresa Sipes has joined our staff in our Youth Justice Division. Teresa's awesome. She interned with us, and we just love her, and we're so glad she could join us again. And then I think I did see Jordan Wally with us. Jordan comes to us from the Anderson County Schools. He is at LCSW and is now the director of our Council on Children's Mental Health and the Youth Transitions Advisory Council. So if you're interested in those things, Jordan is your guy. All right, so I think I have a couple more. Oh, our Children's Advocacy Days are coming up in March. We love you, but we are on a wait list right now for CAD, which means if you have registered and you will not be able to attend, please go in and cancel your registration. Or Rob, if you would put Jerry's email in the box, I don't know if Jerry's with us or not, but if you could email Jerry more and let, oh, yay, Jerry. So Jerry will take you out if you're unable to attend with us. We just want to get as many people that are on a wait list in with us. So it's exciting to kind of have this problem, but we do want to help others. So that is our Children's Advocacy Days coming up in a couple of weeks, which is craziness that we're almost to March. Oh, I did want to say, if you want to stay connected with us, if you go to our website, scroll down toward the bottom, you'll see this kind of turquoise blue box that says want to stay connected. If you click on there, you have the option to sign up for any of our newsletters that go out, any or all. You can sign up for all of them if you want, or you can sign up for one. But this newsletter, Resilient Tennessee, our legislative updates, our advocate newsletter from the agency, Rob's information for Young Child Wellness Council, right, Rob? I think you can get that newsletter. And then Jordan's emails around CCMH and YTAC. So feel free to join in any of those if you would like. I did want to give a really brief update on our Resilient Tennessee Collaborative Strategic Planning update. Many of you know we did embark on a strategic planning process back at the end of last year. We identified a partner to work with us after great proposals were submitted. We had so many good proposals, but we are working with Aurora Health. They are a great group. They lead something called Pathways to to Pathways to Resilience. That's a nationwide effort to help improve resiliency in our kids and families and systems. So they've been wonderful. We had our first in-person meeting with them last week, and they've done things that you see here as kind of the plan. So last week we were able to accomplish quite a few things with our coordinating team, which is a small group of statewide leaders in state government and in some private sector roles. So we're thankful for them. We'll continue to update you as we get further down the road. This is our trajectory through June. We're thankful to the Department of Children's Services, Dr. Tim Cooper and Serena Wilson, for their support and providing a little extra funding for us to get this done before the end of the fiscal year. Also thankful for the money that is provided to do what used to be called Building Strong Brains. I think that's probably how the money still is allocated from the governor's budget. So just exciting things coming. Stay tuned. Let's see. I feel like I had one other thing to share, but I don't remember. Oh, I know what it was. We have our summit, our Resilient Tennessee Collaborative Summit. We had one last May. Our next one will be May the 8th. I could have put a slide in here and I didn't, but May the 8th at Trevecca, the same place we had it last year. It will be the same place that Children's Advocacy Days is occurring this year. And so we will be having that Wednesday, May the 8th, from about 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're getting feedback on speakers and reaching out to identify speakers at national, regional, and local and state levels. We would like to have a variety of options. So I think I've sent a save the date. I will send another one with the meeting information after we get done today. So we really hope you'll be able to join us that day. It's free, and we'll feed you lunch and probably some snacks along the way. So we hope you can join us for that. All right. Let's see. Rob, have you seen Colleen Mall come in?
Sorry, I was just about to text you back. I do not see her, but I do see two numbers with a 931 area code. Don't know who that may be.
Okay. So our first presenter today could be Colleen Mall, the president of the Cumberland County Trauma Informed Community Alliance. If she's not with us, she was maybe a little delayed. We knew that. Then we will swap places with our Knox County Schools friends. All right. All right, Knox County, let's do it. If y'all, and you're going to share your screen, I believe, so. I'm not sure if you guys are talking.
We're not.
There you go.
We're trying to find. We're trying to pull our screen back up. Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. Awesome. I think that, can you see our screen now? Yes. Okay. Good. So I'm Janice Cook. I am the Director of School Culture for Knox County, and I have two of our trauma-informed team, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Krista Rhines. I'm the Trauma Informed Specialist for Knox County Schools.
Nicole Dykes, the Trauma Informed Facilitator for Knox County Schools.
So today we wanted to just do a 100-mile-an-hour sprint through the Knox County process because 5 years ago, Knox County decided that we were going to put together a Department of School Culture, which incorporated the majority of the supports that services that students had that were that was non-academic related. So we have under our department, we actually have like 24 actual departments, initiatives, programs, or whatever. So we have a plethora of programming that we have to do, and being part of school culture, it has grown over the past 5 years, 4.5 years. It started off that there was only 4 of us. There was 4 of us in the department, and it has grown. So what we wanted to do today was kind of share our journey a little bit, and then how we have impacted the thought process of resilience with our schools and where we're kind of headed with it. I say we have a process, we have a structure, we have a plan, and we're going to put it all together we're implementing it, but we're not there yet. This is a journey that we're on, and as we learn more and as we develop more for the within the departments, we get stronger at what we do. So the first thing that we wanted to kind of point out was, well, maybe can you?
Should just be able to.
Well, our screen has stuck, so I'm not sure what's going on here. There we go. Well, we don't know why. So when we talk about the resiliency, and we need to think about this as a society, you know, resiliency is something that we have demonstrated as people all over the world over and over again through the centuries. This is not just something that has occurred here right now in this season that we are in. So we took that information and we looked to see, you know, was there something we could learn from the research about resiliency? And some of the research points out that when they looked at societies who had emerged from situations in a resilient way, there was 3 major things that they could identify. One of them was the degree of interdependence. So when they looked at that, it was the structures for social relationships. The second thing was the ideological flexibility. Where did the societies have the ability to be flexible? And the third one was systemic or systematic redundancy, reevaluating and retraining to meet needs. So when we took that and looked to see how does that really fit in with us as an educational world, it kind of fitted in. We found that really it fits into what we do, because we really set out, when we look at building resiliency within the schools, we look to build those relational connections, strengthen those relational connections. And we all know that that is the foundation of resiliency. So, I mean, we did that. We also look to see, you know what, we are, as a school district, as school districts across the nation, we are flexible. Like, we faced COVID. We came up with a plan. We didn't just, you know, crumble and, you know, disappear. We were able to take what we were given and mold it and develop plans very quickly. Within a couple of months, we had redesigned ourselves as school districts. And then the last one was the systematic redundancy. Really means to evaluate where you are and what is relevant now, and what do we need to leave behind, and then what do we need to do to retrain and rethink to meet the changes that we've made through our flexibility. So we looked at what we have done with staff and to say, you know what, this is what, you know, this is where we need to kind of turn and pivot. And that's kind of our title of this, Can You Pivot? And really, that's what we need to have students to be resilient. We need to teach them the skills to whatever situation they're in. If they face a roadblock or they face something that has altered their path, do they have the skills to be able to turn and change? I've always said there's 2 books. If I was going to write 2 books, one of them would be Can You Pivot? And the other one would be The Great Disparity Created by Bless Their Heart, because I didn't know about Bless Their Heart until I came to the South and moved to this country. So anyway, so this is really, can we pivot? So, you know, Dr. Bruce Perry, you know, all love Dr. Bruce Perry, but he said the more healthy relationships a child has, the more likely he will be to recover from trauma and thrive. And relationships are the agents of change, and the most powerful therapy is love. So I think that most of us in this field really kind of, this encapsulates what we fundamentally believe. So when we go back to how did we start to pivot with COVID, we all had to, school districts, we all had to write a re-entry plan to bring kids back in. But if we go before that, what we needed to do was we needed to look and see, you know, we talk a lot about Maslow and the hierarchy of needs. And we in our field, and I'm sure you guys in your field, we think about that as how we structure. Sometimes that's not how others think, but it is how they behave. Because even without saying, you know what, we need to think about the Maslow hierarchy as we look at a plan for how we respond to COVID and how we pivot from COVID. we automatically did it. Intuitively, the school systems did it. They came in, and the first thing we did was we created that physical safe place. You know, we looked at physical safe place. Then we took care of the physiological needs. We fed the children before we got to the learning part. But now when we returned to school, what we looked at was we had one-on-one connections with students. We made sure every student had an adult in the building that they connected with. It's not necessarily teachers, it could be other members of staff. We did needs assessments, and we had all of our counselors do their minute meetings and assess what was the needs that the children and the families had. And then we adjusted our programming in the counseling world to meet the immediate needs. So we rearranged the curriculum, and then we trained our staff. So that was how we pivoted to get back to where we could start building back up from COVID. Because we do not rise to the level of our goals, but we fall to the level of our systems. So we needed to make sure we have systems in place. So this is our system. As I told you at the beginning, we started off with 4 people 4.5 years ago. There was myself, I had 2 supervisors, and I had a coordinated school health specialist. We have been able to grow our program, and we're not going to go through all of these, but we have basically, we have behavior, we have comprehensive supports, which is a lot of the mental health. We have the coordinated school health. We have been able to employ 2 full-time trauma-informed specialists and facilitators to support the district. And then we also have the more traditional type of cultural responsiveness. And we have found that this works for us. Like, this is the right combination, because we need to work together. Part of what we have is we need to work together as a team. And we will talk about that just a little bit later, because what we had to do was we have to get the students that they bring in with all of their baggages, the baggage that they bring, we need to get them to learning. So this graphic was created here by Miss Nicole, and we love it because it kind of, that bridge, all the parts interconnect between the supports that we put in the district, the trauma-informed practices we work, the cultural responsive practices, PBS, then we've got to get to that restorative place. We have to provide that framework and that structure and those supports for students so that they can actually engage in their learning. And it has to be this multidisciplined approach. We can't just layer on one program after the other, which is where some people kind of get stuck. They get stuck in the, okay, I've been told that I have to do trauma-informed work, and now I have to do restorative practices, and then you've got coordinated school health. What we have done is we have looked to see where is a connection between all of these. So although we have people whose job responsibility has a specific skill set, they're expected to be able to be fairly competent in the other parts, because even although you have, you may be looking at the resilient school communities that we put together, that falls under, if you look there, it falls under every one of the different disciplines. So we work specifically and with intentionality to make sure that we know where those cross connections are, where those we can interweave the different parts of the supports that we're offering. Because at the end of the day, it's what framework are we building for the child? It's not what framework fits the title of the support system that I use. So the foundational part really is the cultural responsiveness, making sure that we acknowledge and recognize the diversity, and that we are implementing structures in place of the structures that take care of a child, that establishes inclusive and equitable practices. We've all seen the iceberg. We like to use the iceberg, and we're not going to go through this, but we put in this just this slide in case that you wanted to go back and look at it. So really knowing the difference between that that surface and shallow culture to that deeper culture, so that we know that we are supporting kids at the level and not just in a superficial way. So how we interconnected all of this was through, we pulled out 3 things that we felt like were pillars that kind of cross connected, and we call it the BBC, the brain science, the behavior, and the cognition. So we start off by having a process, because although we have 2 staff members here, and we have schools who have been trained through the state as, you know, the Building Stronger Brains, the 6 pillars, we all have that. We need to have classroom teachers who have a skill set that they're comfortable using and that they can integrate into the work that they do. And we realize that it has to be almost simplified in a way that they can understand. So so when you have a math teacher and we're telling them, hey, Kate, we want you to use some applied educational neuroscience, you know, they're like, what are you talking about? So we give them we simplify it for them so that they can understand how they can put those strategies in place. And then we have the difference of behaviors, and we look at the behaviors, and then we've put together a package on, okay, so now you have all this information, what do you need to do? So it's the brain science, the behavior, the cognition. When we look at it in action, we as schools are required to consider trauma when we're looking for kids, especially in discipline. So, but we can't say that we're a trauma-informed school if the staff don't understand the basic concepts. You know, trauma-informed, when you're looking at that in the discipline part, that doesn't happen in the principal's office when they're just being suspended. We have to go way back and look at trauma. Do the teachers that we have in our classroom understand how to mitigate and use trauma responses? So Dr. Laurie Desautel came and provided us some professional development last year that, you know, we had about 200 staff came during the summer, came in, loved her training. Krista actually she is participating in her certification for trauma-informed through Butler University, which is a graduate course. But neuroplasticity is a hope for our students. And when the environment feels safe and there's trusted others, our children and our youth thrive rather. So again, it goes back to building relationships so that we can provide hope for students. We've all seen this slide. Again, just put it in so that you can kind of see how we work through. Once we've taught all the staff about the different parts of the brain, the survival, the emotional, and the thinking brain, that puts a lot of the other work into context that we can hook on to those different parts of the brain. So when we're working with children, that we can give them direct support and instructions as to how to interact with kids and how to intervene with kids and how to support kids. And we simplify it all. So this survival brain, we teach them, when you have a kid who is in their survival brain, we teach them what does that look like. And then we teach them that at that point, your role is to keep everybody safe. So what strategies are you going to put in place to keep everybody safe? So if you look at some of the things on this list, a lot of this comes from the therapeutic crisis intervention. That would be like how we would pull in. It's some of that relationship building through both trauma-informed practices and the therapeutic, the work done in trauma-informed care. We don't say any of those. We don't use any of these, but we have, but they're embedded in there because we've generalized them to what happens when a kid's in their survival brain, what do you need to do? Then when they're in their emotional brain, how do you support them? And again, leveraging those relationships, we do trainings on responding versus reacting, etc. So as we go through, we want all of these interventions to allow them to get to that place where they're in their thinking brain so that we can impact them with their academics. So recognizing the brain states is really important, and then how we interact with the kids in that moment. So here is a lot of the things that we say. Trauma-informed practices, there's a lot of things out there that people believe about trauma-informed practices, so we have to clarify what is actual trauma-informed practices. So predictable structures, supportive relationships, creating a safe space. We're all readers here, so you can read and you can go back and look at this PowerPoint. So a challenging behavior. So when we look at our second B, which is the behavior, we're looking to see, we need to be aware of how to interact. So we do a lot of training. Again, this is, one of those icebergs. We know what the behaviors we see, what is in the emotional state that's underneath that, and then how do we intervene? So we're very fortunate we've been able to put together a lot of different programs that we integrate into it. The restorative practices, we have been able to partner with the IIRP, which is the organization that oversees restorative practices. We put together trainings for staff. We use the MTSS model. We teach all of that stuff in many different ways. And we have staff that are dedicated to doing behavior, board certified BCBAs, behavior liaisons, through our CCIS grant, which is a grant that we have to use from the state. We have restorative interventionists, restorative liaisons, and cultural liaisons. So we train over 800 staff during the year in TCI to keep them that therapeutic crisis intervention. We also do probably about 1,200 staff come in and be trained in the summertime, and we do trainings throughout the year. So we do a big emphasis on the trainings. But the last part is the cognition. And the cognition is, okay, we give you all this information, but do you have the skills to use it, and do you know when to use it? And we use the Mind the Gap coming from the UK, and I'm not going to show the little video, but I usually show this video, which is a train coming into the station, and it's, train coming into the station, and they say, mind the gap, mind the gap, mind the gap. That gap is probably only 4 to 6 inches wide, but they say mind the gap millions of times a day. And they say it, they've been saying it since 1940 in London tube stations. What we try to tell our staff is one of the most imperative times to use emotional competence and strategies is in the gap between your emotions and your feelings. When you get that unconscious response, what conscious response do you make? And we teach people about how you, in that moment, mind the gap and use strategies to support and promote a healthy relationship, a supportive relationship with the students you're working with, and then also to then go on and develop strategies that will support them for the future. So in everyday practice, we talk about understanding ACEs. We don't focus a lot on ACEs. We know what it is. We really feel like to move on, we have to have more resiliency, and we have to teach other skills to get them past. We understand that ACEs tells you where you are and some things to look for, but we need to have additional supports. We do a lot of talking about responding versus reacting, and then responding versus reacting versus repairing, restoration. So we talk about what we do when we react, how we can choose our reaction and make it into a healthy response, and then how do we continue to restore if relationships have been damaged? How do we teach children to restore relationships? Because it's one thing for us to build relationships with them. They also need to be able to build relationships with others if they are going to, in the future, be able to be resilient. We also have to fight a little bit against the myth of restorative work, because a lot of times it's like, okay, you just want them to talk about their feelings and you're not going to send them out of class and, send them home or whatever. We have to do a lot of education with our staff to say, you know what? this is really hard work. It is really hard work to teach restorative work and build restorative relationships and teach. It's much easier to just go home and sit and play your video games for a day than it is to actually sit down and process and learn how to build and repair relationships. So I think we're just about out of time. So I found this, this was a little card that a child had written me. And I think that the reality is that we pass on to our staff. Children are watching you. The little things matter. And there's times that we don't even realize the impact we're having. And I was a principal of a high school, a K-12 school that was for students who had emotional disability under IDEA. And this was a letter that we had from, I had a note from a child, and it says, first of all, I want to tell you happy birthday. If I had money, I'd have given you a card that when you opened it, it would sing to you like you did on mine. So I don't even remember singing to that kid on his birthday. Now, I was a music major, so I can imagine that I did sing to that child on their birthday. But this is where the hard part comes in, because although the work that we do every day, this child recognized it, and this was a young kid, how patient I had been. I've been working in volunteering, trying to distract myself from my issues. I appreciate you and the staff for helping me. And when I'm really stressed and panicky, thank you for all you do. It doesn't go unappreciated. You know, for a kid to be able to say and recognize that they had safe people in their life that they could come to, and we could keep them safe when they're not okay. Like, that is the work of every teacher. We have to create that emotionally safe environment so that they can develop the skills. Because, as I said, all I dreamed of was hope, and you give me hope I'll never lose. Our job, when we're looking for resiliency and building resiliency in children, this is what we need to do. We need to build those relationships, give them the skills, and help them find that hope that they have it within themselves to move on. And to do that, we need to train our staff to recognize and give them the skills and the supports that they need to be able to support the children that we're entrusted with. So that's our 100-mile sprint through the process we have. So I don't know whether there's time for questions or we just need to.
Yeah, no, you're doing great. We are running ahead since we didn't have it in person. So we will definitely take questions from anybody that have it. But I'm so excited, Janice, to hear you talk about the Mind the Gap. So I was privileged to be able to go to England back in the fall, probably late summer, early fall. And we took a train from London out to Brighton. And I don't know if you can see that, but I took that picture because I think my friend Elizabeth was with me. She's on this call. And I even said to them, I said, "Ooh, I'm going to name my book that, Mind the Gap." Like, it's such a good concept because it's so clearly sometimes just a very minor thing, but you've got to pay attention and you've got to address it when it happens. So when you brought that into your presentation, I was just like, yes, I love this. So anyway, that's my own personal little connection there.
So that came up. Nicole and I were doing a training and we were going into a school and we were actually just sitting like probably 15 minutes before the training. And I was trying to work out how to really emphasize the fact that there's that split second between your emotion and your feeling that you get to, like, you have to intervene so that it moves on. And that was, and I thought, mind the gap, like that gap. And so Nicole went and found like a video, and I have a lot of skills. Technology is not one of them. So she has that little video that's in there, and we showed that video and we talked about it because we have a lot of people who think they know. They think that they know about how to do this work. They think they know about feelings. If you were to ask people, what is the difference between an emotion and a feeling? They probably wouldn't be able to tell you, you know? So if we even just start there, And that
Yeah.
was one of the things that we did. Like we lined them up in the row, and I said, I'm going to give you a word, and if you think it's an emotion, go here. If you think it's a feeling, go to this side. And it was like a very concrete way to say, you know what, we need to understand what's going on with us, so that then we can intervene,
Yeah.
so that we can support kids. So that was kind of where that came from.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's just so funny when you said that. It was like, oh, yes, yes. We are ahead of schedule, guys. So if you have questions or thoughts, I see a lot of good comments in the chat. I don't know if you guys can see that. And I see Dr. Stewart with her hand up. Come, Dr. Altha Stewart is with the University of Tennessee Health Science Center. So
Well, I am just so, thank you, first of all. This was such a fantastic presentation and approach to working with school partners in a positive, proactive, supportive way to work towards resilience and away from adversity and all of that. So thank you, first of all, for that approach. My question, I guess, is, have you given thought to how you can help us in other parts of the state who might be interested? Have y'all given thought to how this can be, I don't want to say translated, customized, but somehow how we can begin introducing? I don't want to suggest that other school districts aren't doing parts or even all of this, but I know that in some of the work we are starting to do here in West Tennessee with, and specifically in Memphis with our school system, these are the kinds of things that I think would resonate with the administration and be welcomed, but would require some technical assistance, to say the least, because, you know, everything from the framing language to the patience required to go from, you know, the emotional brain to the feeling brain. I mean, to the you know, I love that graphic, by the way. To the thinking brain is something that we often run into, the amount of time that it takes for the individual teacher with an individual child, and the limited amount of time that they generally have would require a real reset. So this is a long-winded way, I guess, of asking, can we have follow-up discussions with you about how we can integrate some of this as a beginning into our system? And do you have thoughts, comments, suggestions for how we begin these dialogues? Because I'm sure you didn't just go in and say, hey, we got this great program, just follow our lead.
Yeah.
And I know there are other people from Memphis who understand some of the issues that I'm raising, who would love to be part of that kind of a conversation, like Katie Spurlock, whose head I see going up and down. So I'll stop there and let you comment.
So I think, yes, I mean, we would be happy. Now, we don't have it all together. Like, I think this has been a journey for us, but the journey has been that there is so many things that have a lot of commonality, and sometimes we get stuck in trauma-informed or restorative practices or PBIS or these other things that they actually are all just branches or spokes of a wheel that like surround the kids. So that's what we really work on with to bring it all together, and then pulling out the best of all things. If you've only got half an hour with the staff, what is the best from all of these things that we can pass on? And we found that we needed to put trainings together that had really like simple interventions that they could use, you know, but we also need to teach them the why, because if you teach people how to think, and that's the issue, is teaching people how to think, you know, what is going on with this kid, to know what kind of supports they need. So we would be happy, like, just shoot me an email and we'll be happy to set up some time to talk about, you know, like what we've done. But as I say, this is our journey. We're getting to the place where we feel like we've got the right people in the right places now, and we're starting to really get traction. But it took us 4.5 years to get from 4 people to where we are now, and just with the process, and it's exciting. I mean, it's our superintendent has allowed us to grow and do this, so we are very thankful. and schools, I mean, schools are very appreciative of the support and the work that we do with them.
You have more words, Dr. Stewart? I know you. Well,
Yeah, you know me, Melissa. I'm always looking for assistance and support for what we're trying to do here.
yes.
And I just think that there are things that you have described that would translate very well with some of the issues and challenges we are dealing with here, and would love to be able to share with my education colleagues the fact that there is hope, you know, like the young child said to you, that we can give hope. So I'll put my email in the chat and I'll be in touch with you. If you want to put yours, Melissa will connect us, trust me, because she knows I won't give her a moment's peace if she doesn't. So we will be in touch to just talk through some of these things. But thank you so much. And thanks to your team and to your school district and to the administration that supports this and funds it and all of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Anybody else have questions for our Knox County friends? They do have names: Nicole, Krista, and Janice. You only see Nicole up there. But I think someone asked in the chat that I will send out, as long as it's approved by our presenters, a PDF of their presentations. I'll put that in a meeting recording in an email. It'll probably be early next week before my brain gathers around all of it. But I will send that out, and it may have their contact information in there. I'm not sure. So,
and we'll be happy to
any
talk.
other questions?
Sorry. We'll be happy to talk to anybody that wants to do. We have a lot of districts who have, like, they've got small districts and they don't have the availability of, you know, like some of the trainings that we have put together. We put it together. We'll be happy to come out if they're round about us and do the training. So it's, you know, this is not just, the more children we can support in Tennessee, the better.
Perfect. And I will say that, was that the fall of 22, guys? It was at one of Lindsay Cody's events. Rob and I met with the Department of School Culture before Lindsay's event that morning. And literally their whole purpose in wanting to meet with us was to say, hey, we have this. We want to help others who may not have what we have. And so, Dr. Stewart, your question was very timely and appropriate, because that was literally how they came to me in 2020. I think it was late 2022. Sometimes I make that stuff up. But to say, we want to help. So thank you, guys. Any other questions? Perfect. Well, thank you, guys. You're welcome to stay with us. We know you have lots going on, but we appreciate you being here with us. And like I said, I will share their information after our meeting is done. So perfect. All right, friends. Well, thank you. It's so exciting. Rob and I have been texting back and forth about the number of participants. It's just so exciting. It's like 112 on there now, which I'm on there twice. So, okay, 111, but we'll take it, right? We'll take it. So thank you for being here. We are going to move right on to our next presentation. We flip-flopped the Trauma Informed Community Alliance of Cumberland County with our Knox County Schools friends. So I think Colleen Mall, who is the president of the Trauma Informed Community Alliance, may be with us. How's it going, Colleen?
I am. I'm with you. Thank you. Did you hear? Yeah. Can you hear me, Melissa?
I feel like I might be missing. Oh, I see you guys.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Awesome. We can, yes.
Oh, good. Okay. Okay.
All right. Let me get my buttons all pushed correctly. I think you did want me to advance your slides, right?
Yeah, that would be great since I'm running. I'm Colleen Mall from Cumberland County and with the Trauma Informed Community Alliance. And thanks to Knox County for flipping time slots with me. it's a hard presentation to follow. It was pretty awesome, and I learned a lot from that. I have with me Mr. William Stepp, the Director of Schools. He's right over there in the left-hand corner, who's going to share this presentation with me as we move forward. Okay, next slide. The Alliance was formed and became a 501c3 in 2022. And what we are about is community connectedness, partnerships, relationships, and trust. And so what we did was, our vision was to have a community that could be ensured of health, safety, and well-being for everybody. And that's a pretty lofty goal. And we drilled down to the only way to make that happen is to have community partnerships. Because in our community, and I don't think our community is unlike any other community, all of our agencies, great agencies doing great things, but they all were doing it in silos. And so we were not moving that needle, whether it's the drug use of our kids or poverty. We weren't moving the needle in Cumberland County because we're not working together. So the Trauma Informed Alliance was stood up to do just that, is to bring these community-wide partners together so that we can have an impact on the trauma that these kids and these families experience. And we all know, I won't repeat the previous presentation, that it is very prevalent in all of our communities. So we are a 501c3 comprised of partners and agencies. And as we go through these slides, you will see what we've been able to accomplish in the very short time that we've been in existence, because we are directed, we are focused on the county needs and the methods that are right for the county and the timelines that are right for the county. Next slide. Next slide, Melissa. Oh, thank you. Our values, you'll recognize those because they're very similar to SAMHSA's trauma-informed template. And that's how we are building all of our initiatives around those core values. And again, I can't stress that the success that we achieve is not individually, but it's by working together and everybody focused on the outcome. We may get there a little differently, but we're all evaluating and focusing so that we get to that endpoint more efficiently. Next slide. So you've seen this tree. This is, we talk about this a lot, and especially when I'm out in the community, about how it involves everybody, from businesses, from government, agencies, families, the community. It involves everybody. And the thing that's not on that slide is the faith-based component of our community. We are extremely faith-based, and so we build in the partnerships with our faith-based community. Next slide. So this is what we did. In 2022, we did a needs assessment with we have about 26 prominent agencies here in Cumberland County that are working with us, and then we can reach out and touch other agencies. So we did a comprehensive needs assessment across the county. And the focus areas were to build a resilient community, and we defined what that would look like for Cumberland County. And we pulled all the data that we could related to Cumberland County to help us focus. The areas in tan, those are the ones that we are actively working on within our strategic plan. The first one is the child and family services, and we'll have a slide here in a minute that will highlight what that is all about. But our primary focus is regionally based within our community, on site, on the ground, focusing on child and family services. And the only way you can do that is to build a relationship and a partnership with the Cumberland County Schools. Henceforth, I have Mr. Stepp here because that partnership is critical for us to bridge between school and community. And we are embracing building a trauma-informed, resilient community. So the Cumberland County Schools and the community, we are very much attuned to having the same type of trauma-informed lens that the kids will see when they're in school, or that we will view the kid and then follow that kid into their neighborhood. Neighborhood-based programs is really our long-term vision. And so we're pretty excited about that. Of course, it doesn't occur overnight. And that's what's created that very strong partnership with the schools. You cannot really deal and try to mitigate the trauma in these families without looking at the wraparound services. So the Alliance extends into that community even more by looking at housing, for example. So we've got an active partnership with the city and the county, and we are developing a plan to manage our homelessness, manage particularly our circumstantial homelessness. And we're pretty excited about that we finally got everybody working together for a solution, which will impact, of course, the families in our community. Child care services, I think everybody struggles with that across the board. We have an active, we're partnered with the Upper Cumberland Development District, and again, the city and the county to be able to expand and get creative within that child care arena. And that's pretty exciting to see the steps that they're taking for that. Recovery support, we've been able to, for this one is a faith-based approach at the very beginning. So we're partnered with a soon-to-be nonprofit. It is church-based, Recover Crossville, to provide recovery support, recovery housing. And all of this is to be able to help the family and the child and not ignore and try to mitigate some of those instances of which they find themselves in the circumstances that they're in. The areas in gray, with our strategic plan, we know that we need and want to get involved with that. Employer engagement will come a lot sooner as we begin to develop our programs that will start this summer, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. But that's, and legislative action, that's our next steps, is to get more focused within that arena. Next slide. So this is a little more specific. I'm sorry, it's a busy slide, but I want to really focus on the child and family services. What we are doing in Cumberland County is, along with the school system, our trauma-informed platform. We're beginning with the schools. I'm going to let Mr. Stepp talk about that. We've begun the training, we've begun the development, and that trauma-informed platform will start with is starting right now with the schools, and it will extend into the community, the training, the implementation, the strategies, all of those things that you heard in the previous slides will be bridged from schools into the community. So we are building now a summer program. We're piloting a particular school district that was identified by the school system as needing that kind of support that we're going to invite in the community. And then there's another community, another zone, another school zone that has already had a program, Teens Against Drugs. They've had it for 20 years, but they've only been in that area with that particular school. And we are partnering with them so that we can have a system or a programs where both of these kids in the school district will benefit, if you will, with the same programming, measuring the same outcomes, and then going back to the school and being able to measure that. We're very excited about that. We're looking at after school care in particular, the alliances. Now the school is looking at something different. And I'm going to let Mr. Stepp talk a little bit about the trauma-informed platform that we're using and how we're implementing it in the schools and then carrying it over to the community.
Yes, hello, I'm Billy Stepp. Been on the TICA board since I became superintendent here at Cumberland County Schools. One of my big goals, even before I was on the board, was creating that trauma-informed resilient school system. So the first plan on that, working alongside TICA, is how do we strategically plan that out so that when we do it, we hit every area that we need to hit to create that long-term success with this type of platform. So what we started at the beginning of the year was we created a committee of school system personnel and trauma-informed community alliance personnel to research and create a strategic plan in six different domains. So we broke it up to staff development and training was the first domain. We had a Cumberland County school point person. We have a TICA point person. We have what we call safe school counselors, which aren't school counselors. They're actual clinical counselors that work with those trauma-informed students on a case-by-case basis. And then we have team members. Then we had a policy and advocacy. So what do we need to do structurally within our school system so that we can move forward? Then we're researching data and needs assessments, which piggyback what TICA was already doing. So a lot of that information that they collected, we're using along with our own assessments of each one of our students in our schools. Then we have our collaboration with stakeholders. So how are we going to collaborate beyond TICA so that each school can provide services as needed? Then we did the assessment, which every school system does, is safe and supportive environment. So that includes not only security, but safety. And then what does a classroom look like? What does the morning look like when you greet your children? All those types of structures. And then we had student programming. So student programming, or what are we doing within the schools, first of all, to identify and then to help. So basically create those groups to create success with those children that we've identified. So through that strategic planning process, our goal is this summer, have it set up for a whole platform to go through our school leaders so that every school knows, every teacher in the morning is going to have a strategy to identify a child or to work with a child. Then where does that child go if we identify them, so on and so forth for services. So that's the goals. But what have we been doing during the year with our actual employees? Well, we started out with our first training on the first day of school. So I have 1,100 plus employees. We had them all together for what's called convocation, and that focused on safety, but it also focused on our goal and why do we want to become a trauma-informed resilient school system. So we spent 90 minutes that very first day introducing where we're going. And then we have a second training of 3 hours that we did with all certified staff. So now that we understand the why and everyone's bought in, now what can we do? What are the strategies? What does it look like in a school and a classroom? And then we're also going to have our classified staff this summer. What does it look like on a school bus? What does it look like in a cafeteria? And I know from riding the school buses, I ride buses every now and then just to see what's going on. Those bus drivers are the first ones to see them and the last ones to see them. So they know the names of all those kids. So that's our early warning system and so on and so forth. And we know all these employees do that. So our goal is to create that whole system for long-term success. And then once we go through this process, then TICA, the Trauma-Informed Community Alliance, will start working on the community strategic plan, and then we'll partner with them. So they're partnering with us right now while we create our plan. And then we're going to partner with Colleen and her team as they create their plan. And we want to create that full county system that we're all kind of the wraparound services, as she had mentioned before, where we can collaborate, because I have access to every child. So that's also all those families that are affected that have those children. And then the other services have access to all those others that are being affected through poverty or whatever the trauma is that they're going through. So that's kind of the big picture of what we're doing. We're working through the training right now. We'll have more training this summer. We've gone through a lot of the stuff Knox County showed on the why and strategies. We're already working through that with the staff as we're strategic planning. So then it'll become a solid system next year and moving forward.
So we had to accelerate it just a tad for the summer program. We have summer school in June, and then we're going to do Fun Fridays, and that summer school is maybe 700 kids. And then we'll have Fun Fridays, and then the 3 or 4 weeks in July, we'll have them in the neighborhoods. So we've accelerated the training just a little bit because some of the people will have already been trained with the school, because some of our volunteers will be teachers, or we'll pay the teachers, but some of them will be volunteers who have not even heard the word, really, what we're talking about related to trauma. So we're going to accelerate the training just a tad, if you will, for the summer program, so that we're trying to be consistent and our outcomes can be consistent. And then, and the other good thing that Mr. Stepp didn't mention is that when we're in the neighborhood and we're working with these kids, we expect we're going to have 100 to 150 kids in the neighborhood. And we can early identify if there's any issues, and we're creating a reach back capability with the Safe School counselors, a mechanism to be able to get the child or family the help that they need, and then back to the Safe School counselor. So it's a smooth transition. And the other good thing is that because we are not reinventing the wheel, we're not creating programs. We're using programs that already exist in our neighborhood. That's the partnership. And these are programs that these kids, the people, they already see. They're just going to see them in their own neighborhood, which we believe develops that relationship building easier and better. So after we finish this summer, we'll be able to pilot. I mean, we're piloting it, we'll be able to have some data.
And one of the challenges we have here in Cumberland County is it's the 4th largest footprint in all the state of Tennessee, but we're listed as a sparse county because the people are spread out so much. So when we talk about neighborhood schools, we're actually talking about each school of the K-8 schools that we have are in a community. So there's a Pleasant Hill community, there's a Pine View community. You see what I'm saying? It's like every county is set up that way. So we actually, in the summer, we have food buses that go out into those communities and serve meals all summer. I think we did 261,000 last summer. So we're also going to send the book bus out with those meals. So they'll alternate, and a career bus. And then along with that, TICA services, people that provide services will go out with us there too. So what we're trying to do is where they're already collecting for food, we're hoping to provide services there too for the parents. So we're going to the neighborhood or the communities within the community, because it's such a large footprint. We're going to have to go to them.
So the Alliance exists as a organizer and to move all these targets, because you got to have somebody do that. You have to have somebody that can manage all of these moving parts. So at the same time, the Alliance is working from a housing perspective, and they're also working from a recovery perspective, and accessibility. We have transportation issues for our children, and we're working with that. So it's like, oh my gosh, how can we do all this? And that's why that operational capability of TICA is so important, to be able to move and be able to connect all these dots. Next slide. So this is just a schematic of what Mr. Stepp and I have talked about. And this is just really to drive home that we are arm in arm in all of this with the community and with the schools and with the churches and the faith-based network that's out there in this county. So as Mr. Stepp says, it'll be ugly perhaps with this first go around, and we'll learn from it and we'll expand. Next slide. I think this is the last slide. And this is the summer program pulled out from those other slides, that we are capitalizing on what already exists within our neighborhood, within our community, and within our schools, and what these kids have access to already. I think that's the last slide. If we went too fast, I'm sorry. Are there any questions for us? Any help that
I think that was great.
Thank you. Any ideas that any of the 211 people have out there that can help us, particularly trying to move an entire community forward? I am all open to that. That would be wonderful. TCCY, Christy Palin has been a great supporter for us during all of this.
I think Christy's on here, so she probably heard you say that.
Oh, good.
Colleen.
So I get kudos from Christy.
Yeah, that question came up about the mental health aspect. Yes, that is a huge part. That's part of one of the domains we're training on. We're trying to create as part of the safe and supportive environment. So we do a lot of training with that through our safe school counselors. And we've added social workers also this year to help with those caseloads and those people that are identified.
Sweet. So is the programs that you're partnering with in the summer, are all those people part of TICA? I mean, you've crossed a lot of boundaries to get all these folks to come together. I guess my real question is, what secrets can you share to help get all these people to the table?
Well, if you heard cats really easy, then you're good. If you have cats, that's great. I'm just kidding. No, everybody believes in this work, and it is that ability. Everybody works, and so TICA is very aware of that. So they try to connect as many dots for them as possible, and the communication is key. It is key because everybody's on board. We may even have some programs coming from the Putnam County, Cookeville area, because we want to be able to provide an environment with enrichment programs, if you will, life skill, but fun and that kind of thing. So our secret is we just talk a lot and move. We don't talk a lot or long. We are action oriented.
Well, and I think a big part of that is having a leader that has the background, the knowledge base of this, which Colleen does. She's got 30 plus years in the medical area, so she knows how important this is.
I'm not that old.
Okay, she has 10 years in the medical
You
area.
started early.
But having that person who already knows the importance of all these aspects, and then is a huge contributor to the community she's an elected official, she does all kinds of things, that has brought a lot of people together. That's credibility. And as we all know, it takes that person at the top, the leader, to be able to put this together. So I bought in very quickly because Colleen and I sat down and talked, and I go, all right, we're both on the same page. We're good to go. So I think that has been the biggest driving force of this in Cumberland County. And it's brought in other elected officials who know that this is a serious move. It's very direct and intentional. So I think that part there, she won't ever say this, but that part there has made it to where people buy in because we know we're going to do stuff. Like Colleen said, we're here for action. We're not here just to sit around and talk. And that was a big buy-in for me because as a superintendent, I mean, there's a lot of other things I got juggling, but this became, okay, this is what can help me with the school system. So that partnership also affects the community. So that allows me to not lose access to the community. So that's how I see it. It's that person at the top that's willing to get the buy-in from everyone else. So
So we have a question about mental health first aid, and thanks for the question. Yes, we do have somebody here in Cumberland County from the health department that is adult mental health first aid trained. And we are looking at somebody from the school, the head of the safe counselors, to be, I don't know if they call it pediatric or child mental health first aid, but yes, we want to incorporate that definitely into the training.
Yeah, I think youth mental health first aid might be
Yes, that's
the
it.
official title. That's awesome. And I think, is it Dr. Stepp?
That's just Mr. Step. I haven't gone that far yet,
No, that's
Yeah.
cool. I just
but you can call me
wanna throw
Billy.
it
I
out
go by
there.
Billy.
Well, I also want to say too, because I've worked in school systems as a counselor, not a school counselor, but like a mental health counselor kind of person, support person. And I think it's important that you're involved as well, like coming, like you said, from the top with Colleen and her depth of knowledge for your staff, your district employees to see you bought in. I think that that goes a long way because we, our teachers are the best, man, but they've got 150 things on their plate that all needed to happen yesterday. And so we know asking them to do one more thing can sometimes maybe not get parade and balloons when you bring it to them. So just the fact that you've been able to get in the school systems and Billy, just get that buy-in for you. And then I know that that trickles down as well. So I just want to throw a few props your way too, because I love the schools. I feel like they're our prime space to help support kids. And so thankful for that.
And I think we're going to find in a lot of school systems, like I found here, they probably found it in Knox County, a lot of our best educators are already doing this because they know they're going to be able to get more learning done by helping the child to be successful. So what I'm finding is we're just trying to wrap it up in one big package, but I got teachers at every building at every grade level that is doing these types of things. They just don't call it what we call it now. If that makes
Right.
sense. This is just so they can manage their classroom. So this is what I'm going to do. So that's the neat part, is it's already out there. It's just a matter of connecting all the dots.
Yeah, that's very true. Let's see, there was a couple of comments, you probably saw them, but just to ensure, Amy Jordan says, I love that the Alliance and the school system has taken on such responsibility to affect change when you could just sit back and say, we only do education. Your efforts show that you really get it and your communities will start to reap the benefits of your efforts. This is so encouraging. Man, we can all use good words like that, right?
Mhm. Thank
And
you.
then I think it's Kreslin Ruckman said we have I think that's a school-based behavioral health liaison and Project Basic. I don't know what CDS stands for, in Cumberland County Schools. Our technical assistants for the school-based behavioral health liaison can provide youth mental health first aid training. Let me know if you'd like to discuss that as a possibility.
Yep.
So.
Thank you.
Sure. I just, my contact information is on the slide. Just send me an email and yes, that would be great.
And you can always, go ahead, Kreslin.
I was just gonna say that's wonderful. I'll email you about that and we'll see what we can pull together and get planned.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kreslin, what's a CDS? A basic
Child development specialist for
Okay,
Project Basic. Yes.
I probably could have pulled that out of my hat, but I wasn't fast enough. So
There's so many acronyms out there. So
yeah, awesome. All right. Any other questions?
I just wanted to commend you because most of the time we don't see that whole systematic and systemic approach that is being used, and particularly when you're looking at a child, and making sure that you have every aspect that affects that child by going in the community, but having even that faith-based piece, because I'm the only faith-based person I believe on this line. So I'm always fighting for that and making sure that that community approach or that holistic system is in place. So I commend you for being as progressive as you are and not so much waiting for that silo approach, but really going out there and being as progressive as the school district at your size. So thank you so much for sharing.
Well, so thank you. We just, if I have time, we just met yesterday. You know, cracking the faith-based community is very difficult. And you know yourself. And so I've struggled with that. Just yesterday, we pulled together, we are one board of 40 men within our community to move the faith-based initiative forward. So we're very excited because now we found the inroad to get the churches within that community involved. So we're very, very excited about where we're headed with them. It's in every one of our meetings that we have at the government level, every single person understands that we are not going to be able to solve this problem without the faith-based community's active involvement. We're just not. We just, you know, so that's kind of an opinion of Cumberland County, I think.
Well, and I've been asked by other directors, how do you get away with that stuff? And I'm just like, our schools in Cumberland County, just like every director is going to say, are going to reflect our community. So our school values will reflect the community values. You have to. I mean, your schools are within. Now, we got all these federal guidelines and all this stuff. Well, we keep up with that. But the biggest thing is the schools will be a reflection of the community.
Awesome. Thanks, Dr. Anita. Great question. I don't think what Dr. Anita says is that she's actually based out of the Metro Nashville Police Department, which is pretty cool stuff. And she went through, I think you went through our Building Strong Brains, the specific one we tried to do for faith-based. Is that right, Dr. Anita? Yeah, so we did some
Yes.
trainings back, back in the day, I'd like to say, where we tried to target, and this is part of our work that's going to go forward with our strategic planning too. For the Building Strong Brains, we did training for trainers where we spent, I don't know, 5 or 6 years working to train people in a consistent conversation across the state in talking about healthy early childhood development and the effect of what's called adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. And then we've added in like positive childhood experience, resiliency, fun things like that. But we targeted for 2 of those trainings. One was a business focused one, business sector, and one was a faith-based sector. Our faith-based response was actually really good, and it was so exciting to have, you know, the number that we did. It didn't pack out our training, but we had quite a few faith-based folks in there, and that was exciting to see and just have some conversations. Our business sector was a little harder to get into because that's not the space we usually play in, right? But what an important space, and I think I heard maybe you guys and Knox County both talk about it, the importance of our businesses understanding, you know, what happens at home matters at work, what happens at home matters at school. And so just making sure that we continue to address those, that is part of what the conversation began with last week in our Resilient Tennessee strategic planning effort. And we hope as we move forward and get more specified goals and outcomes, that that's really going to become more and more a part of what we do. So.
Good. So I would like to answer this last question. Are you able to have non-Christian faith-based? Absolutely. It's our faith-based is not presenting a particular religion. It is loving on the child and exuding that type of relationship you have within that community and meeting that child where they are. So absolutely.
And I think that it's easier to put because sometimes I fall into, or I run into that same problem. But I find the commonality is that if I stay focused and not on the denominations, but on that we are there to love and serve a community. And then that way we stay on one accord and not get so caught up in all of the, well, what do you believe? And what do you believe? Because we all love and serve. And that's it. And we stay on that one commonality.
Yeah. And that's where we are.
All right. Anyone else have questions?
Melissa,
Yeah.
I would just like
thank
to.
you. And I do want to say, yeah, I hear you, Christy.
I'm sorry, folks. I just really wanted to say about Colleen and the group with Tika. She really embodies the leading with vision. I am telling you, she was on a bus and now she has a caravan. And I think the passion that she brings to her vision is contagious and as evident. And I'd like to echo what Mr. Stepp had shared, that she really has, again, just really rallied the troops in Cumberland County. And it's quite evident that she has the knowledge and the passion. And I am just so thankful to her for the work that she's doing.
I'll
And
pay
the
you
group.
later,
I
Christy.
say you. I say you, but it's the whole group, because it's like she leads with the vision, but everyone has their part. And I think that that's what's really important in the success of TICA and in actually moving that needle forward to becoming a trauma-informed community. And that means every sector of the community. And so it takes so many people to do that. And she has just really done that, but everyone else plays a part in that as well.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you all for
Thank
doing
you,
that.
Christy.
I want to say thanks to Christy for connecting me with Colleen, because I just was really just the conduit of, hey, come hang out with us, please. But you guys, thanks for all your work up in the Upper Cumberland. We appreciate it. So,
Thank you.
yeah. All right, friends, we are just trucking right along. I think next on our agenda at 11:30 is Dr. Christian and Dr. Quinn from ATSU. And I see you, Dr. Christian, but I haven't looked for Dr. Quinn yet. Have you seen her on here?
I'm here.
I have not.
Oh, good.
There she is.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm so excited to have you guys with us. I'm going to step out of introduction for 2 seconds. I did neglect to mention and send apologies that Richard Kennedy couldn't be with us here today. He had a conflicting appointment and is unable to be with us, although he may join us remotely if he's able to a little later, but I apologize for missing out on that. But we are so excited to have Dr. Ginger Christian and Dr. Megan Quinn with us. They are with East Tennessee State University. Dr. Quinn is with the Strong Brain Institute. If I say all this correctly, if I don't, they can correct me. But Dr. Christian is with the Department of Educational Leadership and Policy Analysis. And I think that I read a snippet in one of the ETSU newsletters about this project. And so I appreciate them humoring me and coming along to share more with us about this. And I also believe you either recently or in the near future will do a much broader perspective of this for Lunch and Learn. So if you haven't already done that, feel free to share about that and we can put the link, or if you have, all good. So thanks for being with us.
Thank you. And Melissa, can you help me? I started to share, but I'm wondering what the view is, if it would be better if you shared. What do we see? What do the participants see?
We see the slides. Is it in presenter mode for you?
I think so.
Yeah, we see exactly what we're supposed to see. So if you can advance them, you're all good.
Perfect. So I just want to start the conversation with the gratitude. The work that you're investing in your respective communities is inspiring. I see so many connective threads to our conversation, and I do think it highlights the power of community schools and community organizations to provide the solutions that are complex for the children that we serve. So I'm Ginger Christian, and I'm at the Ed Leadership and Policy Analysis Department at ETSU, and my background is I served in the principalship for several years, and we have some UT people here, and through a partnership, we earned the gold level model demonstration status. And I learned a lot about trauma-informed processes during that season. I also spent time as an RTI supervisor, and I'm certified in special ed and general ed, and now have the honor to serve our community and train future and current leaders. Dr. Megan Quinn, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks. I'm Megan Quinn. Hopefully y'all can hear me. I have headphones in because there's a little background noise in the office today. I am in the Department of Biostatistics and Epidemiology, which is in the College of Public Health at East Tennessee State University. And I'm also one of the associate directors in the Strong Brain Institute. And I'll go into that just a little bit more in the next set of slides. You want me to keep going, Ginger?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, we're so excited to be here, like she said, and we are going to talk a little bit more about this interdisciplinary collaboration that we have between the Educational Leadership and Policy Analysis Department that Ginger's in and the Strong Brain Institute that we are actually both in now. So a little background on the Strong Brain Institute. We are an entity at ETSU. We are a multidisciplinary unit with basically every college represented across East Tennessee State University, and we were founded through a 5-year gift from Ballad Health. And so we are listed as the ETSU Ballad Health Strong Brain Institute. And our goals are to look into adverse childhood experiences and promote the development and dissemination of those evidence-based practices. So we really want to be a resource for folks, and we really want to be available to disseminate findings, work collaboratively across different spaces, both at ETSU and throughout the Appalachian Highlands region and the state of Tennessee. So we have lots of different collaborations going on, and I'm sure Melissa has heard about many of these, so I won't talk about those today, but we'll just talk about this creating a culture of resilience model that we have been working on for a couple years. So Ginger's going to talk more detailed about what we're actually doing. I'm going to give a little bit of quick history so that we can set the tone for how we ended up collaborating together and then how we created this PK through 12 district model. So Becky Haas, which many of you probably know, many of y'all were probably trained by Becky, and I were working together to build some assessments for a trauma-informed school initiative that she was working on when she was the trauma-informed administrator at Ballad Health. And so we were looking to figure out how could we kind of test and see what's working and what's not working, so that if we rolled this out in a couple of schools, we could see things that are working in those school systems and not working, and we could build on that to scale that up for all the schools kind of in our region. So the goal was to do that. If you'll stay on that previous slide for just another second, Ginger. And so we wanted to do that. We developed some assessments and all sorts of fun things that were validated instruments from probably a lot of the work that you all are doing and other things we found in both peer-reviewed literature and in kind of gray literature that our different organizations have on their websites. But then COVID hit, and so we didn't implement any of these things. While we were also doing that, the Strong Brain Institute created a project with our Gatton College of Pharmacy to create a culture of resilience within the College of Pharmacy so that the educators within the college would then be trickling that information out to the students, and so that we would have pharmacists trained in trauma-informed care as they went out into practice. This was led by Dr. Diana Moreland, and she was able to kind of create a model that included training, coaching, and assessment. We built upon that model to submit a Building Strong Brains funding RFP to build a culture of resilience in Clemmer College of Education and Human Development, which is Ginger's home college. So the work that was being done in the College of Pharmacy was seen by the dean in Clemmer College, and they said they were really interested in doing this in their college. So what we wanted to focus on with that was their educator prep programs. So all of those teachers that were going out into doing their final kind of year of their teacher prep, and so that they could be trauma-informed teachers before they went out into the workforce and were working with students across the state and in our region. This was, again, like I mentioned, it was funded by the Tennessee Department of Children's Services, Building Strong Brains grants for 2 years. And this also included that training, coaching, and assessment model. So through that work is how Ginger and I connected. Ginger said, hey, I've been doing this at the elementary school that I was a principal at. I would love to be involved more. And so we started talking about how we could take pieces of these cultural resilience models, the assessments that Becky and I had been working on, and put that into a higher education space in PK through 12. So on the next slide, I'll just really quickly wrap it up. I'm talking kind of fast because I wanted to keep my part short so Ginger can give you the really meaty, good stuff that is what everybody wants to hear about. So we continued this collaboration with Educational Leadership and Policy Analysis, or as we call it on campus, ELPA, and the Strong Brain Institute. And Ginger and I have stayed connected and working together on this. So she's more of the direct person that's doing this work out in the community, and I like to crunch the numbers behind the scenes and give her different assessment and tools and things like that. Through that, we connected with Ballad Health. And so Ballad was aware of some of the work we were doing through the Strong Brain Institute. And then Ginger was able to connect with them as well to provide some additional resources and supports for the work. And then one of the big things that we want to do in the Strong Brain Institute and through this project is continue to disseminate those findings to a variety of audiences like you all through this work, but also through different mechanisms so that we can build some research around this. I think all of us have at some point wanted to find like this little playbook or toolkit that we can just go and apply to the work we're doing. And they're not there yet. I mean, we're finding some of them, but that's one of the things we really want to do around this is build that research of creating cultures of resilience in school systems and then trickling that out into communities. So I'm going to pass it to Ginger to give us all the really good details and fun stuff.
I cannot thank Megan enough for her guidance and willingness to share resources. When I completed the trauma-informed training as a higher ed faculty, I think I actually ran down the hall to find Dr. Foley and said, this is the way in which we can do scale up work in the school district. And Megan just has been extraordinary. I want to give you a snapshot of an image of what the work accomplished in one school when we really were intentional to have systemic change. And so over 5 years at Anderson Elementary School, the second year in the principalship there, I sent my assistant principal to Becky Haas to be trained. And so she went to be trained and came back and we did a train the trainer model. And that was 16, 17, 17, 18. And as you look at this data, you can see the decrease over years of time that occurred. And we learned about crafting new innovative interventions for our students between accelerating behaviors that told us a story, disruptive, disrespectful, the amygdala hijack in full force. Before they had an office discipline referral, how could we craft this reset space and train them with intention? And so we did a lot of proactive work. And my concern, you can see here, 34% decrease in 75% decrease in fighting. The academic conversation is a level 4 in achievement in a high poverty Title I school, and also level 5 in growth. But the culture story is happy school, children laughing in the hallway, children helping to keep one another accountable, and hope when we were continuing to encounter very difficult conversations. So we wanted to understand, could we in fact scale this work up? My concern as a former supervisor and current principal, what happens when students leave a school that has infused trauma-informed practices and systems and goes to the next school and that is not in place because we know the neuroscience. So our project goals included this. The model provides support for district and school improvement goals in PK through 12 to mitigate the effects of ACEs among both teachers and students in rural Northeast Tennessee. We wanted to be intentional to partner with one district. We do have expansive partnerships in schools in some other districts, but I cannot say enough about John English, who's not with us today, but we were presenting the opportunity to the superintendents in our region. We had spoken with him. Unicoi County Schools is a rural school district, one high school, one middle school. And during the conversation, he had already talked with his leadership team. And he came to us and said, I want to be the partner. I want to be able to craft this work. And I will say to Voice and Choice, he invited his principals to meet with us. They talked with leadership teams. So it was never a mandate. It was an invitation. And it really allowed us to craft this together. Our partnership invited Unicoi County Schools to work in collaboration with our ELPA faculty to design a PK-12 system to identify supports, transition students effectively through a continuum of services from elementary to high school and now to post-secondary at ETSU or other schools. The project components included, and this was really important, adverse childhood experiences training, and that was available through SBI. The asynchronous free training that is available to all of us in the state of Tennessee provided a vehicle in which we could ensure that training was occurring for teachers, educational assistants, nutrition personnel, bus drivers. I had learned as a principal that it really was important that everyone was in the conversation. And to the previous director's comment, I rode buses and our bus drivers could alert us first thing in the morning if we needed to handle with care. Strategic planning based on Resilient Schools survey results. We're going to talk more about that. As a principal, I had used survey data, the PERS survey, but knew that an intentional survey tool that focused on trauma-informed practices specifically could really guide our practice as we continue to guide the principles. Restorative practices that we've heard and community partnerships, which you'll see. And the survey tools are given at the middle of the year and the end of the year so that we can really guide the implementation each in real time. We learned and understood that the SAMHSA framework, those 6 pillars, were central to the trauma-informed practices. But we also recognized we need a framework that made intentional connections for school leaders. And so we had an evolution of a framework from our work in one school. And ETSU had partnered with me, Dr. Virginia Foley, and Dr. Jason Gordon from University of Tennessee. And we began to have this expansive conversation. What are the systems that we need to investigate and assess readiness for, and where do we need to infuse strength in our coaching, assessment, and training model? And so due to our conversation today, you can see there's 7 high impact practices that we've identified for a resilient schools framework and 7 systemic changes or processes that need to be in place. So in some instances, we might need to strengthen a system, and in other instances, we might need to create a system. The community engagement practices is there, the family engagement practices is there, the MTSS. But for our conversation today, we're going to focus on school culture and climate and the core values and the systems that need to be there and continuous for our students and trauma-informed practices.
Hey, Dr. Christian.
Yes. Go ahead.
If you go back to that slide, I'm sorry to interrupt. Would you mind just giving us a 2-second overview of what MTSS practices are? Non-education people may not know what that is.
Thank you for that clarifying question. It's multi-tiered systems of support. And so when we think about MTSS, we do intervention, response to intervention, or response to intervention for behavior in Tennessee, where we have instructional blocks of time that are inherent in the school schedule, 30 minutes or 45 minutes of intervention. And special education can be served in those blocks of time as well. So we wanted to ensure that's a system that by law in Tennessee, we already are looking at with intention for our students that meet the criteria for low academic proficiency in reading and or math, and or have demonstrated challenges with their ability to regulate their own emotions. And that's response to intervention behavior. The term continues to change as we do the work, but MTSS is the national research-based term. So we have captured that, and we're using MTSS in our system to assess our students and then monitor their progress towards their goal, which you'll see. Any other questions about the framework before I continue? So special education would be housed under MTSS in this framework. So this was fascinating. Of course, we're using the trauma-informed framework that the state has used with Building Strong Brains. But what we found was the practices that teachers were asking to implement, they needed to be able to make intentional connections themselves to how that worked. And so voice and choice is going to become a focus in our conversation as we look at some of the practices we've identified from year to year with this work. I am going to spend a moment, I know I'm in a room with mental health experts that know much more about this than I do, but in the second year of our partnership, we had an opportunity to come into a collaborative conversation with Ballad Health Behavioral Health. And they have been instrumental in the expansion. And we were encouraged to see that intentional connection to the framework, because what we know is being able to leverage all the resources in the community and give that wraparound continuum of support after school care, Coalition for Kids or LEAPS grants, places in which we're serving children when they leave the school until 5 or 7 o'clock and in the summer. So this has been important in conversation with teachers. So as we've shared the research about mental health, and when I say we, Ballad Health, Behavioral Health, Dixie Way, Britt Graham, Jim Shannon, are part of our team that have become trainers. So when we train aspiring teachers, when we're training in our Capacity Building Institute. Their voice is as present as ours as educational leaders. But this conversation of the third leading cause of death is suicide for 15 to 24-year-olds, and how proactive we can be. I heard national data this weekend, 22% of students in the nation are chronically absent. And we know that when students are not in our schools, they are probably not in the safest environment. And that if we are unable to engage, there's usually a root cause for that behavior. So resiliency. As a resilient community collaborative, we recognize the capacity of a dynamic system, which public schools are a dynamic system, to adapt successfully to challenges that would threaten their function, survival, or future development of the system. And we were selective about the title of the project. This is currently not a grant-funded project. It is a service commitment to our community. That the Resilient Schools project, the title Resilience, to previous presenters' points, captured what we want to model for students. That trauma is not my identity. Resilience is my identity. Hope is my identity. So that is how we frame that work. The assessment tools are the Resilient Schools Mid-Year Student Success Survey. We give that to the leadership teams and the Resilient School teams. Then we look at Resilient Schools Changing School Culture. That's at the end of the year. That survey gathers data from educational assistants, any employee in the district, teachers, administrators. We also have the Resilient Schools Data Report. That one tool, and Dr. Quinn and Becky Haas had crafted that prior to the project we created, became instrumental for middle and high schools. We had a 2-hour conversation because with our middle and high school principals, being able to identify who would meet the criteria for tier 2 or tier 3, meaning they need more proactive and positive interventions to overcome significant challenges with trauma or academic proficiency. How will we identify those? And we really did, we were able to use that in a 2-hour conversation, identify who those individuals were. We also believe in a community school and a personalized learning model. So we have worked individually with each school to help them identify their core values. And we're using a Resilient School Student Success Plan to monitor progress. As you look at this, we entered our partnership through a 5-year strategic plan. And we've shifted that verbiage and language as we've learned. It really is an action planning process, but it's a strategic map. And each year has been guided by teacher and principal feedback and intentional in year 3 and 4 to include student voice. So when the first year really is January to May, all staff completed ACES training. We created Resilient Schools teams. The Resilient School Survey began, and in the summer, we identified tier 2 and tier 3 students. I'm going to show you that report in a moment. In between the summer, between year 1 and year 2 in the summer, we worked with the building, our partner schools, and we gave an opportunity. They have a Resilient School core value list, and they went through a process. Teachers provided feedback, students provided feedback, parents provided feedback, and then we synthesized those values down to 5. And the schools are not identical. And so in each of the schools, they then are teaching those values, which is PBIS that we heard in Knox County. They're teaching those values to all the students following each break. In year 2, we also put in a bridge to practice. When a student does have an office discipline referral, there is a process before they re-enter their classroom or during the day of their first day back from an out of school or in school suspension. As a principal of a gold level model of demonstration school, it was the 2nd year when I realized if a child had been suspended for violent, disruptive behavior, harm to self, harm to other, and I placed the student back in the classroom without a conversation, there was a large amount of emotion still under the current. So we put this process, it's a bridge from an office discipline referral back to the classroom. And it allowed a conversation. using restorative practices in year 3. Then we're also looking at sustainable onboarding. Our vision is to work ourselves out of a job and to leave the district training the trainers. And so the principal at the high school is one of our trainers for restorative practices. And we, like Knox County, have partnered with the International Institute for Restorative Practices. And we're sustaining this work by capacity building institutes. We do touch points every 9 weeks with our principals, and we bring the Resilient School team in twice a year for opportunities for deeper lenses of training and to look at the data. We're looking at expanding common language and school-wide voice and choice. I've heard this as well, but I'm going to spotlight it through our lens as educational leaders. We believe deeply that the principal leadership and the administrative team leadership is paramount to effective change and the commitment to the process of change, because it goes to the value and the belief system of the leaders. And when you see these images, and I'm sure everyone here has seen the image of the 3-year-old and the toxic stress and what that does to brain development, but I learned, and we are learning through our partnership, we need to be as supportive to the adults in the conversation, because they also are experiencing the amygdala hijack when unusual or high stress situations unfold in a school setting. So the image that you see here is an MRI image actually of an adult brain. It's of medical students who are preparing to do their exams for medical school. And when we know that you're talking about very highly intelligent individuals, and when they're in an unstressed state, they're able to process from that amygdala and go to the prefrontal cortex and explain and access what they know. But when they're in high stress, they cannot. We have also connected this work to emotional intelligence, Daniel Goleman's work, and provided training that is a depth of that, so people understand from 1 to 5 o'clock, it is going to be more challenging in our school day. And if we know that, because we have an EQ dip, how can we be better supportive, more proactive to help one another through those challenging parts of the day? Here's an example of the core values, and this is also interesting. In the conversation with Unicoi High School, they were completing the process, and then they historically had pride, passion, purpose, and perseverance. And the leadership team and the Resilient School team made a decision to resurrect the values that had been in place but had been on a shelf for a season of time. Unicoi County Middle crafted new ones: respectful, responsible, and growing. They are the blue devils in Unicoi County. And so Dr. Graham will say, don't be a devil, be a blue devil. And it's just fun. The videos they have created, the way in which they tell their story. This again honors the community school. Students had voice to this. They know their community. We are there to support their community and provide the research that they need. So we're explicitly teaching school core values before and after every break. They're providing visual guides to teach and model positive behavior expectations. The Resilient Schools data report identified our children in the first summer that needed help. Develop proactive restorative relationships. This was powerful. In the middle and high school, Dr. Horton said, I need some support with policy around this for the discipline handbook, because if we're going to address this according to the guidance from the state, I want to be clear with parents that when there is an office discipline infraction, there is a process in place. So we helped craft that policy, and it is now in their handbook. And then we have a restorative process and have added a reset space in the middle and high school that I'm going to share with you. The school level teams are also monitoring students. For those of you who are not familiar with the RTI2 or RTI model in MTSS, we monitor progress for children every 4.5 weeks. So again, wanting to make intentional connections to what processes are in place. We coached and encouraged our teams to include these conversations, because often our students cross over that need behavior intervention supports and academic, not always, but often. Dr. Horton at the high school has a student success meeting. She changed her vocabulary to student success. So now we're focusing not on a deficit model but an asset-based model. And you'll see that data. I wanted to give you an example of what the Resilient School Student Success Plan looks like. And here is the Building the Bridge from Consequence to Self-Regulation. This is an example of the data report that Dr. Quinn had crafted with Becky, and then Dr. Foley and I worked on with teachers. And we truly just use OSS and ISS data in year 1 to identify students for interventions as they entered in year 2. I talked about the restorative practice and that bridge from the office discipline referral to class. This is really important, but we also encouraged our counselors at the middle and high, and this was in year 1, summer between year 1 and implementation into year 2, that they're meeting with those students 2 times and then 3 times for students that we identified as tier 3. The restorative questions are an important process, but we added 2. How could you respond differently in the future? And what do you need in order to successfully return to the school environment? The student voice often holds the own solutions to their challenges. So as we provided time and intention and a system to make sure that was occurring, and we're using the word integrity with integrity, the student now has a voice to what do you need. Also, in those counseling conversations, the counselor had an opportunity to do an informal ACEs assessment and make it referrals as appropriate to additional mental health supports or DCS. The emotional intelligence that we've been focused on for both students and adults includes personal competence and social competence. Again, Goldman's work, Bradbury and Greaves. Common language was critical. And we actually visited a school district in Virginia that's about 10 years deep in this work, Roanoke City Schools, to learn with and from them. And when we returned, we identified these terms as the common vocabulary, pre-K through 12, that we wanted to use. That has been an important part of our work. And I won't read these. I know that you can see these. The reset spaces, calm spaces are often utilized in elementary schools, and they may have access to calm spaces in some settings in middle and high, but we have added a reset space and a process. There is a color-coded system, and a student can remove himself or herself out of the room to the calm area, reset, replay the situation, and restore back to the classroom, or the teacher can ask the student to go to the reset space. And I know we're limited on time, so I want to get to the data. Here's an image of the reset space at the middle school. Ballad Behavioral Health has funded our reset spaces. We provided the items they could consider as they implemented this in the spring of last year, but we have sensory tools. If you need to hit something, you can box here, and instead of hitting a person or a wall, we're in a safe space. And then, of course, we've got a treadmill. There's many items that support our students. Here's the data. 34 out of 109 high school students were effectively moved from receiving tier 2 and tier 3 supports back to tier 1. Last year, at the end of the year at Unicoi Middle School, their chronically absent rate was at 21%. So 21% of students were not in school like they needed to be. This year in February, after the implementation of the reset space, the trauma-informed practices, the core values, that process of ODR, they are 2.5%. Students do not need to leave the school. Now they leave the classroom, have time to calm, have some coaching support, go back to the classroom and continue to learn. This data has been encouraging to us in our project. We have resilient leadership principles that are guiding us as we are continuing to craft and build this framework with feedback. But I've heard it said several times, vision is the work. And as we're reimagining the space for our students and shifting the environment and providing them a safe place to go during a school day to calm and reflect and reset, this is also the law of the lift. This work is larger than one teacher, one school. It is truly the wraparound services of a community and a continuum of services when children are moving from one school to the next that allows them to experience success. So we're looking forward to the opportunity with the Strong Brain Institute to spotlight the principal voice and the honest dialogue about leading change and potential resistance to that process. So we wanted to share with you the QR code that is here and invite you to join us. That's going to be on February the 27th from 12 to 1 o'clock. It will be a webinar situation, but we're going to stop recording in the last 30 minutes. We'd love to have conversations with school leaders, mental health personnel across the district about what are you doing and what can we learn from each other to continue to strengthen this work for our school communities. So our format's a bit different for our next two webinars. They will be 1 hour in that 30-minute roundtable conversation so that our school leaders currently leading the change in their own districts, in addition to our specialists and researchers at the university, because we do have that research lens and the high impact practice lens, we can learn from one another. So it is 12:59 here, so I guess it is 11:59 there. Did I do okay with that?
Doing great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are you guys done? I see you might. Yeah, there you go.
So we do not have time to share the video today of the reset room, but we will include it or the link. We're also in partnership with Kingsport City Schools and designated schools. The reset room, this video we crafted teaches the children how to go, the students how to go to the reset space, adults how to use the reset space. We are monitoring that reset space with the days of the week that it is most utilized, the time of the day it is most utilized, the sensory items or experiences that reduce the amygdala hijack that are utilized, and then informing that to really do personalized professional learning for adults and to coach the students. So the district is now doing training with their counseling and mental health specialists in that space, which I think is so exciting because we're thinking, and in all of the schools, they've had to rethink how they use space. Sometimes they've had to build a wall. Unicoi High School painted the wall with a beautiful mural. So when you walk into the space, it just makes you feel like I'm calm. Who I am is not how I feel. Who I am, I have pride. I can persevere. Those core values. And it has been truly extraordinary to see that work unfold.
So cool. Man, I love schools. It's one of my favorite things. But yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Christian, Dr. Quinn. Thank you for sharing that. It's so encouraging. Was there any particular attraction to Unicoi County, or was it just good relationships already there? What allowed you to work with them?
So that's an excellent question. They are a rural community and a smaller community, and so resources are often limited in those environments. And we wanted to be able to provide a support in an environment with a district that hadn't currently had depth with the work. But I will say that Unicoi Elementary and Michael Riddell, who'd been part of the Building Strong Brains work as an elementary principal, sparked the conversation. Because following that 2-year commitment to the trauma-informed cohort he had been part of, he said, what do I do next? And reached out and asked for support. And I think that highlighted the need of this continuum over a period of years. And also that, and this is the principals I mentioned were first-year principals, and that was 21, 22, so during COVID still. And he was seeking support during COVID. And we have noticed the high demand of behaviors that are telling us a story in our schools, that children are requesting help. And so are our amazing, extraordinary teachers that serve our children. And so I really commend him for reaching out, and he sparked the partnership. So since we had the relationship, we were thoughtful about those conversations with Mr. English and our capacity issue. There are 3 full-time faculty in ed leadership. And so we were also mindful that we wanted to bring excellence to the conversation.
Yeah, I love that. I love the system partnerships. Like that's one of the keys that we hope Resilient Tennessee continues to support and build out even further. I love that Ballad Health was able to fund that calming space. Like how cool. When you said there was a boxing bag in there, I'm like, this is so cool. Like it's just one of the neatest spaces. I think we'll hear after lunch from Metro Nashville schools and their advocacy centers doing some similar kinds of things. But yes, thank you so much for sharing. I love those partnerships that are really just kind of getting out of our normal lanes. And sometimes that's hard for us to step into those spaces. So thank you for that work. Anybody have questions, or did you have something, Dr. Christian?
I was just going to thank you for the conversation today. And again,
Yeah.
the work that Dr. Quinn and her team did laid a foundation for us to build on in the schools. It's exciting.
Awesome. And I think I have the link as well to that that webinar, the Lunch and Learn. And so if I get myself in order, I will send out the post-meeting information as soon as I can, and I'll include that link too. Because if I remember correctly, there'll be more people talking about this work from the work. And so it'll just be maybe, a longer, more robust opportunity to learn. Teresa Sipe says co-regulating students helps keep them in the classrooms and out of the juvenile justice systems. The reset room is such an innovative way to support kids and communities simultaneously. Great presentation. So we agree. Thank you guys for being here. Any other thoughts, comments from the gallery?
Thanks for having us, Melissa.
Oh, you're welcome. I always love having you guys with us. So. All right, friends. Well, look at us. We're just, taking names here. Thank you so much for being with us. It is 12:05 Central, 1:05 Eastern. I try to remember to hang with my Eastern time zone friends. So we'll take about 30 minutes for a refresh, a walk around the block, a lunch break, whatever you need. And we'll come back. I'm going to start gathering you back together about 12:30. So in truth, it's about 25 minutes. But we'll get started 12:30, 12:35. And I think Jamie Grammer from Department of Education is up first with us, if I remember the schedule. Yep. And so Jamie will talk with us about their resilient school community. So have a breather, have a break, and we look forward to seeing you at 12:30-ish Central and 1:30-ish Eastern. I don't know if you all could hear that, but that was a very pleasant noise that reminded me it is 12:30, 1:30. So if you would, and you are apt to do so, come on back and we will get started here in just a minute. Had to go make myself some tea because even though it's evidently a very nice day out, I'm freezing up here by my window. We're so glad that you guys stuck around. We'll give maybe one more minute and let people start rolling back in.
Melissa, how long have you been in your role?
I have been in this role since October of 2021. I was with the commission before for I've been there about 9.5 years, I guess. And I did something called the Council on Children's Mental Health, which is what our friend Jordan Wally is overseeing now. So that's a partnership that partners with the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services to really move forward the system of care principles and values in Tennessee, if you're familiar with those. And so it's now called SOCAT, System of Care Across Tennessee. I could preach about that for a long time, but it's a great opportunity to really just advance kids and families by keeping them in their communities, honoring their values and being, kind of trauma-informed community, cultural, family-driven and youth-guided. I'm missing something in there. So.
Yeah, it's just wonderful to hear so many individuals across the state working for a common goal for our children, our communities.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you with us. That's really, really our goal. One of the cool things about TCCY, I kind of mentioned this at the beginning, is we try to kind of, Richard, our director, would put it in the terms of kind of be your next door neighbor. And, we're going to come over, we're going to sit on your porch, we're going to maybe bring some tea and ask you what you need and hope that we can help, We want to help kind of bridge those divides where we've all kind of lived in our silos. We still do. Some of it's in a unavoidable, maybe is the word I'm looking for, but we hope to kind of minimize that. And specifically with Resilient Tennessee, as we're embarking on this strategic plan to help us become a little, to identify better goals and outcomes, because we want to really work on some specific outcomes to help that connection piece for all of us. So
that wraparound model with community support, that's gonna make a huge difference.
Yeah, I'm excited. The business piece, I'll be completely transparent, kind of scares me because that's just not the world we've lived in. My mental health career has almost entirely been in public mental health, and so it'll be a good time. It'll be a good time. Okay, we'll get started here now that you've heard a little bit of more conversation about TCCY. Rob, you want to throw your announcement out really quick? Just, never hurts.
Never hurts. Thanks, Melissa. So I put in the chat right before lunch that the Tennessee Young Child Wellness Council will be meeting completely virtual tomorrow from 10 to 2 Central Time. So I'll put that back in the chat just in case, because I know some of you may have left for lunch, and I'm not sure how it works if you still have access to the chat if you left and you came back and you see that. So if you're interested, Dr. Sege will be providing the HOPE framework training, and we'll also hear a report out a presentation about the state of the child report, among some other things. So if you are able and willing and have some time, love to have you there. And I'll throw it in the chat with my email as well, just in case you have any questions. Thanks so much.
Awesome, Rob. Great group. If you're in early childhood or just interested in that information, Dr. Sege was with us at the summit last year, and then Rob just commandeers him for his everyday meeting. So Rob's the cool kid in town. But so glad to have you back with us. Jamie, I haven't even looked to see if you are here.
I am here, Melissa.
Oh, yay. I hear you. Good job. All right. Well, we're excited to have Jamie Grammer with us. She is from the Tennessee Department of Education, and she is also a member of our Resilient Tennessee Coordinating Committee. So we're thankful for her volunteering and willingness to hang out with us in that respect. So I think you're sharing your own slides. Is that right?
I am, and let's just see if I can do this properly.
You're doing great. I see it coming.
Okay. I'm gonna try. I wish I could see everybody. That's the only thing, is I can't see everybody. Okay.
I will tell you, I was playing around earlier, and there's some new button.
Oh, well, you are the only one that I can see right now. So are you seeing the beginning of the slide where it looks like where I'm supposed to be?
I am.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect, perfect. All right. Well, as Melissa said, I'm Janie Grammer. I am the project manager for Tennessee Aware at TDOE. Just a little bit about Aware, if you're not familiar. We are currently in 7 rural school districts across the state. We have a 2019 cohort that will be sunsetting this year that is 4 districts, and then a 2021 cohort that is 3 districts. And we really work hard to build capacity and sustainability and really put those mental health supports in place for those kiddos that are in those rural communities. So that's just a little bit about my work. And also part of my work is being over the Resilient Schools Communities Grant. I don't know about y'all, but my cup was filled up this morning by everybody and all the great things they shared. So I'm going to share just a little bit about what we've done at the department. And then if you have questions, after, then I'll be glad to answer any of those that I can. So when we do anything at the department, we always want to ground it in our strategic plan, and we focus on academics, meaning no matter where a student lives, they're going to have the same access to high quality academics, no matter where they live across the state. And then our educators, we really want to, grow our own quality educators and keep quality educators. And what we hear throughout the state is, teachers are burning out and teachers are leaving the profession. So really focusing on how do we keep our teachers in our school buildings and working with our kiddos. And then the team that I sit on is that student readiness piece. I have a heart for the non-academic needs of students. Little background about me: I was a classroom teacher for 10 years and a school counselor for 9.5 before I came to the department in January of 21. And so I've always just had a passion for those non-academic needs. I love teaching. I love academics as well. But I think everybody on this call, we know that if kids are not, if they don't feel supported, if they're hungry, if they're tired, if they're going through some things, they're not worried about the fancy math lesson that we have prepared for them. So just really focusing on those non-academic needs and those mental health supports that we can bring to kids. So this is kind of an overview of what I'm going to go through, basically just looking at the funding, what priorities were involved in it. I'll show you a list, might be a little bit hard to read, of the grantees that were involved, how we implemented the training at our level, some of the things that the districts were able to do through hiring some mental health supports for their students, and then some challenges. I love to share sunshine and rainbows, but just for those of you that may not be aware, there are some challenges with getting those mental health supports and getting those qualified people in place. Then I'll share some promising practices and just kind of what comes next and what outcomes we've really seen through resilient school communities. So, and I say resilient school communities, you've heard the word resilience all throughout the morning. We have really shifted. We work trauma-informed schools. We had trauma-informed schools cohort 1 and 2, and then we shifted to this district model, which shifted to resilient school communities, and not just asking schools who wanted to be a part of it, but really saying, okay, districts, who is willing to come on board with us and, get the training for your entire district, so that when a kid transitions from the elementary school to the middle school, they're still getting those same supports that they were getting in elementary. When they move from middle to high, they're still getting those same supports. The teachers were all speaking the same language. The admin, no matter which school they transfer, are all speaking the same language. So we really went to that district approach. Just a little bit about the funding. We actually got this grant through the Department of Health. So it came out in FY23. It was 10.2 million, which sounds like a whole lot of money. And if it was in my bank account, it would be. But when you think about all the districts, the 97 districts that applied and received money, yes, it gave them some money to do some things. But we always want more and would love to have more invested just to keep these things going. So we had 10.2 million divided over those 97 districts. And then in FY24, there was additional funds available, and that was provided to 23 districts. And I'll kind of give you a little bit of background on why it went from 97 to 23. So when they originally applied for the grant, the districts could choose 3 priorities. They could choose 1, 2, or 3, or a combination of any of the 3. So priority 1 was building that resilient school communities. And basically what they were saying with priority 1 is, hey, our district, we are passionate about this work, and we want to be a resilient school community. We want to have our teachers trained. We want to have our admin trained. We want to have our district teams trained. We want everybody trained up, and this is what we want to implement. So those are those 23 districts that received that additional money in FY24. Those were the districts that applied for that priority 1. Priority 2 was increasing those school-based support staff capacity. So getting those people in the building, getting a social worker, getting a behavior specialist, BCBA, another school psychologist, even a school nurse was covered under this grant. So just, again, building capacity for staff. And then the third was the school-based initiatives. So bringing in programs, like Move to Stand is one that a lot of people did. Capturing Kids' Hearts, just bringing in programs that really benefit the students and help with their mental health. So those were the 3 priorities. And like I said, they could choose 1, 2, or 3, or a mix and match of both. But when you go back to that funding piece, and I'll go back to that screen so you can see it, that 10.2 million was divided over all 97 districts that applied. And then when the additional funds were available, the way we decided to distribute those was really focusing on those districts, those 23 districts that selected to be a resilient school community and be that priority 1. So here's a list of grantees. Now, this is the first page. There's also an additional page. I have given Melissa permission to share the PDF of this PowerPoint. So don't worry about trying to write these down, or if you're just looking for one particular district, they are in alphabetical order. But these were the 97, that applied. They were our grantees for that FY23 grant, so the original application. We did not allow new applications in FY24. Again, it was a leadership decision to just distribute that money to just those resilient school communities. Okay, so this next slide is actually a map of where our resilient school communities are. And I have a list on the following slide as well. But I like the map because it shows you that we really are spread throughout the entire state. So you see there's little pockets here and there. And we are in districts that are as small as a 1 school district. And I think our largest district is Rutherford County, and they have 50 schools. Wilson County is one of our larger as well, with 23 schools. So it is very varied in kind of the supports that the schools have, the number of staff that they have, the number of district leadership that they have, a nice varied group. But it's been nice for them to come together and really learn about each other. Our 23 resilient school communities districts, I'll talk about the training in just a minute, but the continued piece of that, we do monthly communities of practice calls. So I host 3 calls a month for our districts so they can collaborate with each other, because the trainings we did, like I said, which I'll speak about in a moment, they were more regionally based. So, a Alamo City Schools is not attending, the training with Bledsoe County. That's just too far of a span. So, but in getting on those communities of practice calls, they can really hear about what's working. And a district like Alamo City can talk to a district like South Carroll that are both just 1 school districts and say, okay, what are you seeing that's working? What are you doing that's working? Maybe where can we make some adjustments that really make sense for them? So this next slide again is just a list of the Resilient School Community districts. So I'll give you a second to just kind of look over that a little bit. We do actually have one DCS school. Its former name was Wilder, so you may be more familiar with Wilder, but it's Barbara Ward Cooper now, and they are part of our Resilient School Community district, which is really, really exciting. So what does being a resilient school community actually mean? There's not a state designation. You don't get a little seal on your website or anything like that. But it really just means that you're saying, hey, we want to be a part of this. We believe in this trauma-informed work. We believe in building resilient kiddos that can go out there and conquer the world, because that's truly the goal. And we want to be a part of this work. So we trained in the fall of 2023. We trained, is that right? Yes, no, fall of 2022. Sorry, I'll get myself right. Just look at the slide. It's correct. I'm not. In the fall of 2022, we trained 213 school teams, and those were made up of 3 to 5 members. Well, we said 3 to 5, but you all know there are plenty of schools that are always like, well, we really have 6 members. Can we do 6? Well, I'm not going to turn away anybody that is begging to come to a training to learn how they can help kids. I'm never going to turn them away. So 3 to 5 members from each school team. And we made sure that an administrator was part of that. It didn't necessarily have to be the principal. It could be an assistant principal. It could be a consulting teacher, basically anyone that had kind of the authority to make some school level decisions, because we want the leadership in the room. I know plenty of buildings that have got tons of teachers that are super passionate about the work, but if the leadership doesn't buy in, then it's hard to really create that entire culture of building resilience. So in the fall of 2022, we trained on building strong brains. And I know you've heard building strong brains throughout the morning, but really that is the training that focuses on that brain science, focuses on what trauma does to the brain, how ACEs affect our brain, what ACEs are. It does all of that. Talks about neuroplasticity and how we really can change the way our brains are built by doing certain things and doing the right things with kids. So then in the fall of 2023, we went back and did 6 pillars of a trauma-informed school. And I think you've heard 6 pillars throughout the morning too. And that's just to review those 6 pillars: allowing that flexibility within predictable structures, building those relationships, creating a safe space. I think several people mentioned empowering that voice and choice, which is extremely important for our kiddos, teaching and supporting regulation. And the biggest one, and probably the one that's most difficult for folks, is using discipline to teach and not to punish. And that's the one where people really have to, they have to dig deep and they have to look at themselves really closely on that 6th pillar, because a lot of times we think in punitive terms. So it really has the teams digging in both of those trainings, and they create an action plan. So year 1, they created an action plan, and this really is a working document. This is, yes, I look at them, but I'm not going through and grading and marking them up with a red pen. I really want to see what are our schools concentrating on, where are they already doing the great work, and where do they need to enhance. And then they do the same thing. They adjust that action plan for year 2. Maybe they got new leadership and they need to change some things around. So, but designing that action plan where it really makes sense for each individual school, because I think sometimes when you use a district approach, people kind of think you need this like blanket, this is the way we're going to do things, but every school is so different, and the leadership is different at every school, and the staff is different at every school, and the kiddos. So really giving them that autonomy to say, hey, what are you a rock star at, and what do you need to work on? Or what are some things you really want to focus on? So we used the train the trainer model. Basically, I went in, trained all the school teams, and the goal is for them to re-deliver this content to their schools. And it really creates that sustainability piece, because that's what we want. We can go in and train a fantastic group of staff, and then, you know, if half of them retire or half of them move to another school, then you're only left with a few that know this content. So really looking at, okay, what does sustainability look like? Because I'm not coming in from the state to say, here's the training, and next year I'll come back and do the training again. You know, it really is, hey, we know the material. And so when new folks come in, how do we get them on board? How do we teach them what our policies and practices and procedures are? How do we teach them what a resilient school community actually looks like? But they redeliver that information to their staff, and then they can go back and do refreshers. You know, they can pick out a video or a strategy that they really want to investigate more into. So that's kind of the training piece there. That timeline kind of varies depending on when the school team was trained. And honestly, if you've ever been in a school, you know, the best laid plans sometimes don't work out. So they may, you know, they schedule a training and figure out when it works best to redeliver that to their staff and what that really, really looks like. So thinking about some of the goals, again, I told you they could pick several priorities with the grant, one of them being hiring and getting that staff on board. So you have the numbers over here on the left, and then that in that little blue box on the right, that just kind of shows you the list of folks that they hired with those funds. I love the third one, learning loss liaison, just having people that can come in, and they created positions for, you know, people to support their kiddos in all sorts of different things. The activities coordinator is also another one I loved. I think you're probably more familiar with all the others, but just, you know, having someone that could give them a break. You know, when a kiddo needs a little time away, needs a little activity to get back on track, needs somebody to talk to, these people are in those positions and can get that kiddo back on track and get them back in class, which is ultimately the goal. So you can see in FY23, 158 total positions were funded with the Resilient School Communities Grant. And that was 109 were funded and were LEA employees, and then 42 were contracted employees. So they contracted with different agencies. It could have been one single person, or it could have been a number of hours with a certain agency, and it could have been a multitude of people. And then so far, and again, remember the funding dropped drastically in FY24, but so far through December 31st, there have been 69 hires, and that does not count the 150. That 69 is not in that 158 from FY23, but 69 new positions, 65 being LEA employees, and then 4 being contract employees. And we'll go on this next slide. You'll kind of see why maybe some of their best laid plans didn't actually work out. Here are just some of the hiring challenges they heard, or that we heard from them. You know, honestly, not having a big enough applicant pool of folks with experience. So some of our grantees have been really, really smart, and they've partnered with local universities, and they've said, hey, who's getting a psychology degree? Okay, you've got somebody getting a psychology degree. All right, let's get them in, and let's get them an internship, and let's kind of show them all the positions that are available in our school district. And maybe they really think, oh, maybe I want to be a licensed social worker, or honestly, no, school counseling, you know, looks like a good place for me to be. But just, again, trying to pull in any and all stakeholders to really beef up that applicant pool. Of course, anytime you talk about getting people, that costs money. And so we heard that as well, just budget challenges, and the difficulty of not wanting to hire someone and then not be able to fund them the next year. That was one thing we did here is, you know, people wanted to bring people in, and they don't want to say, hey, I'd like to give you a job for a year, and then you're going to have to figure out something else and another way to feed your family. So that was one of the challenges too. And then some of the districts being rural, it was difficult maybe for them to match what maybe some bigger districts were already paying, or even if they could match the salary, if the folks were going to have to drive longer, then it was going to eat into the money that they were going to be making. So again, we hear budgeting challenges a lot. And of course, just finding those qualified applicants. So now that we've heard the negative stuff, let's look at the promising stuff. Again, being able to hire a behavior specialist to really work with students and work with staff on what strategies they can implement so that kiddo doesn't have to be removed from the room. Again, educating those teachers on how can you build those relationships. Having a resiliency coach, again, using those students and staff. Talking about having like a specified person to actually serve as the counselor for students. I think a lot of times our school counselors can be overwhelmed with the paperwork side of the work and may not get to, provide the attention they want to. So having another person in the building with a mental health background has really, really been very beneficial. And then that last one, having an LMSW, like staff members have been able to go. So it's not just benefiting the kiddos, it's also benefiting the staff. And that's one of the things we talk about. That's actually included in the action plan that we do. We talk about the staff self-care piece. Like, how are you going to take care of your staff? Because they are dealing with lots of things. You're in a helping profession. You're taking that stuff home. It doesn't end when the bell rings. We got a few more promising practices. There's a lot of small group counseling that's been able to happen. Specialty group counseling, they've been able to set up grief groups and then some kind of social skill groups, social personal competencies, really giving the students that extra level of support, just meeting the students where they needed to be. Teletherapy, which, since the pandemic, telehealth has really become a large piece of our care. So not just on the physical side, but using that mental health supports as well. And they said that really helps with parents that maybe can't take off work to come get their kiddo, being able to have them provide telehealth in the school building. That means mom, dad, grandma, whoever's in charge of the student doesn't have to take off work. They don't have to find a ride up there. The student can get the support and help they need right there while they're in the building. And they're not missing school, which is another just huge benefit. You keep that chronic absenteeism down because they're still in the building. They're just scooting on over in front of a computer to get the services they need for 30 minutes, and then they're able to head right on back to class. There's one of our districts did a community-based grief center. So they're contracting with them, and that has been a really big support. Again, most people said that it's given their counselor or a therapist more time to have those small group sessions. And again, helping with that leadership aspect. So that's just some of the promising practices. You can read all these when Melissa sends you the PDF. I don't want to take too long on that. So additional trainings, again, that third piece, providing those different supports, different initiatives, different programs. And you can see we had 24 staff members attended crisis CPI training, and 30 staff members participated in the leadership portion of Capturing Kids' Hearts. 20 trained on restorative practices. 13 attended SCALI. I like that one at the bottom. 80 staff members completed a 5-day certification with Cornell University to train therapeutic crisis intervention for schools. So just giving them, having the funds where they can send, their teachers, their counselors, their admin to these different, opportunities that they may have not been able to fund through their general purpose funds. A few more, 15 staff members attended grief and loss workshops. That's 78 staff members from 12 different schools attended the Ron Clark Academy. That was a big one for us. A lot of folks were interested in the Ron Clark Academy and the house system and just how that works. They implemented Handle with Care. If you're not familiar with that program, it's a really wonderful program. And I know several people talked about it before with the bus drivers, you know, the bus drivers being those kind of first on the scene and saying, hey, I noticed something going on here with little Johnny, handle him with care. So just having that program in place has been really great too. Social personal competencies training. And then I know we're all concerned with school safety. So 21 staff members received threat assessment training. So lots of different things, you know, surrounding mental health. So it doesn't just have to be having a person in position, but just bringing in other people. And on the next slide, I'll share with you just a couple slides of outcomes and student suspensions decreasing. And that's, of course, we talk about that all the time. The kids have to be in school if we want them to learn. And so having that is huge. The mental health counselors seeing students on a regular basis, again, during school hours, again, keeping them in the building, having those mental health supports on the scene so that they don't have to go and seek those out. And then, oh, here's another one with chronic absenteeism, actually with a percentage. They reduced it by 4.3%. 42% is high, but they reduced it to 37.7. And, you know, we'll take any change that we can get that moves in the right kind of positive direction. So, and then the last one just talks about bringing those social workers in, and just, again, all of this work is really just about supporting kids, supporting those non-academic needs that we all know they have so that they can, you know, thrive, learn, and again, be those productive members of society. So I think I went through that pretty quickly. There's my contact information. If anyone needs it, I'll be happy to answer any and all questions that you have. I am going to stop sharing my screen because I really do want to see any faces that I can see. So.
I'm the same. That's why I like log in on my personal computer too, so that if I have the presentation, I can see faces over here. Jamie, what is the Ron Clark Academy? It's a random question.
It is a school, and they have a house system. And I mean, it is a functioning school, and they let you go in and take several days, take your staff through it, and they really teach you how to replicate what they're doing. The students are the leaders of the building. Like, you don't, when you go in there, the adults aren't the ones that show you around and tell you where to go. The kids really, they've taken a lot of ownership. And so I love that somebody brought up earlier that student voice and choice, because in that building, they are rocking it out.
Awesome. You can tell I'm a non-educator because I did not know what that was. So, any other questions for Jamie? Home of the Amazing Shake. I will definitely have to check out what an amazing shake is at Ron Clark Academy. All right. Well, Jamie, thanks so much for being with us.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it. And like she said, I will get that information out to you. One of the coolest things that I like about this work is if you came in after lunch and you heard Dr. Christian and I talking, I was talking about system of care values and principles, and that's always been a partnership across departments as well, trying to help infuse those. Then Project Aware comes, let me think how this worked. Maybe we built out that Building Strong Brains training, and then Project Aware comes around and they use some of their funding to take the Building Strong Brains and tailor it towards educators, which is what Jamie was mentioning, and I'm sure they've done some updating to it as well. So they took the work but with Building Strong Brains, tailored it toward educators, trained mental health professionals like myself and educators to work together to present this information. And then that led to their trauma-informed schools work, which led to their resilient school communities. So it's really cool to see how even across departments, when historically we have all lived in somewhat of silos or islands. I like islands better, seems more fun to me, but we want to connect our islands and at least keep that communication and connection as strong and healthy as possible. So thanks so much, Jamie. We appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Melissa.
Yeah. All right, friends. I think, we do the amazing shake at Unicoi County. Ooh, I've got my Google task when we get off this meeting. All right. I think Metro Nashville Public Schools, MNPS, I got all that right. And Dr. Mary Sarnabori are hanging out with us next. Dr. Sarnabori also has really cool people with her, Courtney Jenkins, LaTanya Williams. I think I say this, Tanya Carney and LaTanya Williams. So if you guys, my apologies if I said those poorly, but we are happy to have you. And if you're with us,